you told me last night and then this morning about a direct message battle where you heard or read an opinion that you've never heard before.
So the credential for the WNBA draft, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. Spoiler alert, Caitlin Clark went number 1 overall to the Indiana Fever.
A+ pick.
Yeah, and it really riled me up because media members who claim to be against being censored or about open media access, boy, do they get quiet when it's a media outlet they disagree with that gets silenced or gets locked out or censored in some way.
Yep.
And there was a clip from our show yesterday that was posted across social media where I was ranting about how it is BS, I believe, that no one comes to the defense of this and says, hey, just because they asked an unpopular question, it was a legitimate question about an issue that's happening in college sports. And a question was asked by Dan Z to Don Staley the day before the women's national championship game about trans women, biological males competing against women in women's sports. And Don Staley wasn't offended by the question and answered it, and it got a reaction. And then the WNBA didn't like it and did not grant OutKick a credential. And I ranted about it yesterday. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. And I'd love to see the same energy shown by media members at all times for all types of censorship and not to be hypocrites about it. Well, get home last night, Hutton. I'm kicking the soccer ball around with my 4-year-old. And in between, kicks into the goal, happen to check my phone. And I noticed that I have a direct message.
Always scoring, of course.
Always scoring. Happen to see a direct message from a mutual friend of both of us.
Yes.
That I will describe this person because I requested this person to come on our show. I also told them, if you feel like this is an unfair playing ground for you, then I will go on your show if you would like. They declined both opportunities. After a lengthy back and forth, which, don't worry, viewer and listener, I will share with you the back and forth.
It's epic.
After a lengthy back and forth, though, I finally said, I'm going to share these messages because, quite frankly, you are the one sports media member that I personally know of, and I really can't think of anyone. I polled the studio today before the show to think of someone who honestly believes that biological men should compete against women in women's sports, that not stays quiet on it or says it's an overblown issue or it's just another attempt at a culture war and all that. That's a very common opinion. But most sports writers, sports media members, when you bring it up, they really do sort of back away and they won't answer direct questions. Well, this person answered direct questions, and I couldn't believe it when I started getting these messages. So what we thought we would do here today, Hutton, and tell me if you approve and if you like this.
Yeah, sure.
I will read. This will be a dramatic reading of a direct message on Twitter X last night between me and a national college football media member, okay, that wishes now to remain anonymous after I stated I am happy sharing all of my opinions and everything I've written here with everyone, with my name behind it. Are you comfortable doing the same? They didn't want to do that. They wanted to remain anonymous. So, in the interest of anonymity, we will have a dramatic reading. This is a little bit of OutKick Hot Mic theater. I will play the role of myself. Playing Chad Withrow will be Chad Withrow. Playing the role of anonymous college football media member will be our very own Davey Hudson. And Davey is alongside. Davey understands the assignment. And to show people that this is not some fabrication, it's hard to see, but I have posted, with the name blurred out, the actual messages that I received.
Instead of a Christmas story, this is a Withrow story.
Yes. I have edited in certain spots only because it might take the entire first hour to get through this. I'm sad to say that this occupied way too much of my night last night as we really got into this. So, Davey, if you are ready, we shall begin. And keep in mind, all right, I have not talked to this person in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Consider this person a friend.
Yes, and a very good member of the media.
Very good member of the media. Hutton knows this person well also. Someone I think is very good at their job.
Yes.
But imagine being confronted by someone in a direct message with these words that Davey's about to read for the first time and not talking to them in 3 to 4 years. Davey, please begin.
Do you need me to slate?
What?
Never mind. That's theater talk.
Oh,
All right.
Oh, sorry.
And action.
Voice exercises, whatever you need to do, David, to get into your process, please do it.
Do you actually believe what you were saying? Why would be outraged? You work for a propaganda machine, not a news organization. It is a profitable propaganda machine, but it isn't real news. I deny OutKick too after that BS pulled last week. 100%. Nothing against you. Much love for you, but come on. What you guys just can't do is try putting yourself into the skin of a trans person. You think that person wants you to bleep on their very existence? You think they want to choose torment and torture? They're trans because they feel trapped in their bodies. Something we don't understand but should take time to understand. How many athletes are trans? You think there is, let's see here, following around the next one. Let's go around. You think there is some grand conspiracy for men to take over women's basketball? OutKick is out of control. Do you think the life of a trans person is easy? How many are lining up to play sports? How many just want to feel okay? Yes, trans women are women. And if any of this is based on the Bible, use some common sense and reason. The Bible is likely as authentic as Greek gods like Orpheus and Eurydice, and nothing more than a tool to enslave and control. Again, much love to you, but Hutton's rant last week
Hutton making an appearance
was really got me going, filled with ignorance. I'm done ranting. Love you. Peace and love. Peace and love. Insert GIF.
Ringo
peace and
Starr.
love.
Yeah,
Oh,
Ringo
there's
Starr
Ringo.
saying peace and love.
Peace and love.
Hutton, you ignorant SOB, by the way, as you're dropped in there. It was your rant, apparently, that got this person going to begin with. Again, that's like 5 or 6 messages deep. That's the first thing that I see are all of these, one after the other, just an incessant rant about everything.
It's they're just going on and on like he's having a conversation with you, right?
Right.
And we're not saying that we want to torment and torture trans.
Well, and I get into that.
Okay.
We'll get into that because this goes on. And again, I've edited some of this for time. But here was my response. Keep in mind, I'm playing with my 2 daughters outside as this happens. And I thought for a second about how should I respond? I said, I have love for my own daughters and would never allow them to play sports against biological men or dress with them. If this makes me some right-wing lunatic, so be it. I think it makes me a rational human.
I disagree 100,000%. But again, love you.
Lots of love. So I responded and said, so you were cool with your daughter having male genitalia dropped in front of her in a locker room and her gold medal taken from her by a biological man like Riley Gaines? Help me understand how that's fair or just. And I'm all for trans people having protected rights as Americans, but that should not include the right to move over to women's sports. This is not some fanatical position.
Of course I would. I'm not an a-hole. It's pretty fanatical. Again, you aren't trying to put yourself in their shoes. I'm already very used to this as a theater dad.
Now, I'll insert here and say this. My response at this point, this is where I'm starting to get a little bit more fired up, because my response to asking a question about you would be okay with all the things that happened to Riley Gaines happening to your daughter was, of course I would be okay with them. I'm not an a-hole. Now, Hutton, would you not take that as him calling me an a-hole?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure that I was on the same.
Yeah, I would take it as that. And he's referencing all I think your previous comments combined.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
And our comments from last week.
And back to the production. Okay. Can you come on my show tomorrow and discuss? Happy to come on yours if you prefer.
Restrooms at every Broadway theater are general neutral. We all know he meant to say gender neutral.
Yes. General neutral, yes. Generals, lieutenants, everyone welcome in those bathrooms. And now I'm an a-hole?
My thing is I don't look at myself as anything special. I don't care about myself. I care about others. I care for the oppressed. I try to put myself in their shoes. Why do they feel this way? Learn everything I can. I cheered when Dawn gave her response. There are many great trans people who just want to live. I love them and care about their rights. I promise you nobody is transitioning over sports. As far as your show, what time is it? Afternoon, right? Also, I think Riley Gaines is vile.
He goes on to say a few other things about he did not intend to call me an a-hole, but that was certainly what it sounded like to me.
Okay.
Now we're back in. I say, I care about them too and don't root for bad things to happen to them, talking about trans women. Just like I root for young girls and women to excel in sports against their own gender.
Well, I think I'm on the right one. Well, I'm glad to know you care and not surprised. You're a good man.
So I go on
balanced
and say,
man at that.
Yes. And I think, not to self-congratulate, but I think this is some of my best work.
Okay.
I respond and say, tonight you have touted yourself as a selfless, loving person that only cares about others. Yet you have A, called me a fanatic for saying that women shouldn't have to compete against biological men or dress with them if they don't want. B, called me an a-hole for telling you that what I don't want for my own daughter. C, criticized my religion and Bible as a, quote, tool to enslave. Help me understand how you have shown love, friendship, or even professionalism to me. I am not some perfect angel, and I think that's where it cuts off, right? Yeah, I'm not some perfect angel. I'm a sinner and imperfect, and my God forgives me for that daily. But for you to act pure and just while speaking to me this way is truly hypocritical, and I'm honestly perplexed by all of this.
No, I did not call you an a-hole. And let me ask you, if you weren't a Christian, would you act different? Would you believe otherwise?
All right, now I need to know where I skip forward to on this. I think that it goes, the next slide should go somewhere different because this went on for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah, I said right here you inferred that only an a-hole wouldn't want my hypothetical that actually happened, talking about Riley Gaines, to take place.
But I'm not calling you an a-hole. It's a figure of speech.
Oh.
You can change my mind, though, and if you would like to discuss religion, I'd be glad to, because it's very dangerous. Oh, yeah. He corrected himself after that. And I used to be that one cuts out on me. I don't know what he was going with on that one.
We'll go to my
This is verbatim on the transcript. What Davey's saying.
This becomes kind of a back and forth on the semantics of whether or not he called me an a-hole or not. Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
My response: I've spoken my piece to you and happy to discuss in a more civil and respectful way than you approach me on my show or yours anytime. I'm happy to post our conversation publicly because I regret nothing I've said and treated you with respect as someone I always thought of as a friend and colleague. Guess I was wrong.
Thomas Paine once wrote, Christianity is as close to atheism as sunlight is to darkness. You are a patriot and a fan of the founding fathers, right? I was very civil. You are amazing.
Oh, wow.
I think that's where we end it, right?
I feel
that's last
there's a lot. It does not end there. It continues on and on.
This feels like a scene out of Righteous Gemstones to me.
Yeah, it really did become biblical and a lot of religious undertones to the message. But look, guys, I and Davey, bravo, outstanding work as the
anonymous media member,
the antagonist in our little play that we just had. I wanted to share this because, and I'm being completely honest right now with what I think about this and my opinion on it. I don't know a single person that's ever argued that biological men, trans women, however you would like to describe them, should be competing and beating women in sports. Now, there's been a lot of subterfuge. There's been a lot of redirect. There's been a lot of silence when you ask direct questions about it. There's been a lot of OutKick is BS, culture war stuff. You're trying to incite people on both sides with questions. There's a lot of that. I've never heard this. And Hutton, this came from someone who covers college football on a daily basis and talks college football every single day. To say that I was shocked to hear this opinion is an understatement. But I wanted to share it because I've honestly not even heard that opinion yet. I totally disagree, and we've talked about it before. I mean, I could not disagree with the opinion more, but in the interest of sharing different opinions on this show and talking about them, I wanted to present to you a real-life person in sports media that covers college football in the wild that actually believes biological men, trans women, people with male genitalia, and a lot of testosterone should switch from women's sports to men's sports if they want, if this is what makes them happy, in order to compete in college sports. Even called Riley Gaines vile in this message to me. I think it's important that we know that these opinions exist. I don't understand it. I wanted to share it in some way. This is someone that I think is very good at their job, that I respect. Again, I'm not going to say exactly who it is because they don't want me to say exactly who it is. And I would be interested to know why they don't want me to reveal their identity if they're so passionate about this argument and feel good about it. I don't get it.
And, I mean, what you're saying about, in the dressing room, male genitalia, Riley Gaines tells a story with Leah Thomas. We're not sitting here saying death to the transgenders.
No.
What we're saying is athletes should compete on teams that match their biological sex.
Well, and at what point I'm all for everyone to have rights. I don't wish for someone's torture or torment or all the things that this person is talking about with the trans community. No, of course I don't want that for anyone. But when you start to play in these waters of now, in order for them to have a happy and fulfilled life, they deserve the right to go compete in women's sports. No.
And women's sports could be.
No.
This is all encompassing. I'm taking this
Yes.
opinion. So UFC, you could go to the women's division and compete against women in UFC. Now, that's not going to happen with Dana White, but this would be the stance of said media member, right? It's all encompassing.
Yes.
So according to a Gallup poll, 93% of Republicans said athletes should compete on teams of their biological sex. 67% of independents felt the same way. And even Democrats, 48%, said athletes need to play in sports matching their biological sex. 48%. So I'm looking at this going, the vast majority of Americans stand behind this. The common sense aspect of, if you're born male, that is your gender. Just because you feel like you're not that you're still biologically male or female. And you can't just going on the transitioning to women's sports to compete, that makes no sense to me. Why we would allow this?
Well,
just from the common sense.
I'm trying to
common sense
in any discussion I have with anyone. I'm trying to. You always say it well that you don't have to agree, but you hope to understand.
Yeah, I don't have to.
You need to understand where they're coming from.
I may not always agree with you, but I need to understand your side of things, because if you can't explain the side that you're coming from, I can't respect whatever it is you're saying. It just if it's all encompassing, if it's just it's just swimming, or it's just basketball. Well, let's really look into it. Chet, I'm sure in hearing this media member is thinking, and I nearly said his name. This media member is thinking. I
told him before we started, I said, please don't slip up and say the person's name as I'm doing this.
Sarah Fuller it was nothing wrong. It was nothing, there was no
accomplishment,
no PR aspect at all with what Vanderbilt was doing in that season. And that wasn't, transgender. Sarah Fuller wanting to be identified as male. That was just a woman kicking in college football. And what were you saying at the time, Chad? Even then, where it wasn't someone identifying as another gender, it was, do we really need to see this live on the football field? Where you're one of the 11 on the field?
Well, I don't.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, and
that makes no sense either.
So I'm trying to think of something I can agree with this person on in this argument. And one little takeaway from that whole back and forth that we just read for you that I will agree with is, no, I don't think right now we have a ton of trans people that are becoming trans to go play sports, just for the sole reason of playing sports. I do not think that's happening, but it can't happen once. The point is that, people point to, well, there's like around 100 or less than 100 in all of women's sports. The point is that's 100 too many, because whatever the rule is, it doesn't matter if it's happening for this specific reason. You have to have rules and regulations in place to prevent bad actors from doing the worst, which would be identifying as a woman simply to go win money, win prizes, win first place, or hurt women in sports
Chad.
in some way. So you have to protect against those that would do it. And Hutton, one other thing too, even if it's not done solely for the purpose of sport, if it happens, all right, Leah Thomas, let's say, legitimate transgender woman. Leah Thomas also born a man, physically, height, weight, testosterone, strength, everything, man. But Leah Thomas, in the transition, decides to go, well, I'm a swimmer for the men's team. I'm going to go swim on the women's team, and wins and competes against women, and this thing happens. It's not right. It's not right. And normally when I pose that hypothetical, that actually happened to Riley Gaines, to any person, they don't respond.
Well,
and I got a different response last night from it that basically said, yeah, I'd be all for it because I'm not an a-hole. And I found that shocking.
Well,
so I wanted to share that opinion because it's so different than anyone I know.
And I'm sure, like, bringing up Sarah Fuller is like, oh, that's apples and oranges. Well, and how dare you, Hutton, take away her moment? Well, that's exactly what's happening here. If there's only 100 of, there are 100 different Sarah Fullers that are, you're missing the moment based on a man taking that spot or competing and tying for a national championship in swimming or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
that's exactly what's happening here. So I mean, if it's of course in this case, Vandy was down every possible kicker on campus. It seemed like, and not really, but that you are taking the spot of, and we're not. I feel like it would be one argument of, you're taking that spot. You're not giving the woman Sarah Fuller the opportunity to compete. Well, the flip side of the argument, that's not happening here either. And I for the life of me, I don't understand why we can simply say and champion the woman aspect of this, and be criticized for saying we want to keep men out of women's sports.
I had never heard that opinion of this actually should be happening, and I'm all for it. And if it happened to my daughter, I'm fine with it. I've never heard that from anyone I know. And I know this person and feel like I know them decently well and have worked with them before, and I was shocked to hear that opinion. And one of the responses I got to what OutKick posted yesterday from our show was, oh, well, everyone roots on Monet Davis in the Little League World Series when she's playing with boys, and everyone roots on the girls that make a Little League World Series. Let me give us a bit of a science lesson to everyone who says this. There are pre-puberty sports and post-puberty sports. And a lot of girls play flag football with boys or football in some instances as little kids. A lot of girls play baseball with boys as little kids. Post-puberty, things change scientifically for both boys and girls, and that's when a separation takes place with boys and girls sports. So I feel foolish for feeling like I have to say this to people.
I know.
But this is how crazy it's made,
Chad,
everyone.
Are we supposed to have Alfred DeLea, or whatever his name was, I Hit Dingers, the 12-year-old kid, like go and play like girls softball?
No.
The Little League version?
And let me, and one
see what I'm saying?
one other broad point that was brought up in these messages that Davey read beautifully, and that is the one message that was basically, I love everyone. I am for the oppressed. I believe I'm for the little man, woman, trans person, whoever it is, and I'm against this and that. Now, let me tell you why your religion sucks, why your Bible sucks, why your company sucks, why everyone who shares your opinion sucks. Let me tell you about this. I'm such a loving, good person, and I have so much virtue in my very being that I am forced to fight for them while you are vile, Riley Gaines. You are vile, Chad Withrow. You are vile, Jonathan Hutton. This is not helping anything. As much as you want to act like you are part of a solution, you're not. You are the very embodiment of why identity politics suck. Because you have aligned yourself with one side of a viewpoint, and you believe everyone on the other side of the viewpoint is a bad actor or a bad person. You couldn't even believe that when I'm saying I don't think trans people should move over from men's sports to women's sports, that I could have that opinion and also have the opinion that they should have protected rights as an American citizen. And I don't want anything bad to happen to any of them. You couldn't even believe that. So what the hell are we even doing? Like, you're that good? You're virtuous? but yet the Bible is made up and your religion sucks? Would you say the same thing to your Jewish or Muslim friends about this? That's what fires me up about all of this, is that people take the side of any viewpoint it is, and they paint themselves as the good guy because of that. And I am simply telling you the viewpoint of a good person because I believe in these people. I want these people to succeed. I want them to go dominate women's basketball if that's what makes them happy and content. And that makes me good and you bad. We're not getting anywhere as a society when we take that viewpoint.
Well, and it's also, and well said, it's also just the stance of, well, where does it end? What sport do you end it? Which one is it? Yeah, Danica can go out and race. Where does it stop with the boxers? Why? You're holding them back. They want to box. Why can't they? Just based on all, it just doesn't, it's nonsensical from that angle.
Hutton, everyone keeps saying, it's not a big issue right now. It's overblown. Dan Z and OutKick and everyone else making too big of an issue out of it. Okay, fine, whatever. 100 or so athletes, not a huge number when you consider the thousands and thousands of NCAA female athletes.
Right.
That is true. But one is too many. This is the point that I want to make and be consistent on this show with. It hasn't affected Dawn Staley yet, so she doesn't care. She hasn't had to play against a man that's dominated her team and ruined her perfect season. If that happens next year, I bet if Dan Z asked her that question, she'll have a different response.
But she had her response because of the back and forth that you had last night. That's why she avoided. She's paused and thought through
because
it.
she wants to appease the person that was messaging me.
Right.
Cheered. That said, I outwardly cheered when that response was given.
And the political angle of this, it goes both ways. Where different sides with literally anything nowadays.
Oh, absolutely.
No one can have a conversation. You have to argue.
Yeah, and the right is very much as guilty as the left on a lot of this.
Right, but I'm saying you can't have a conversation of anything. It's got to be hot button clickbait argument, right? And it certainly turned into that with the back and forth with the argument instead of conversation. And to me, the conversational aspect of this is pretty straightforward. No one's saying, stop any and all Americans from their right to do whatever. But we do have to. I mean, why is there a women's 3-point line in a men's?
Let's be honest too. There are. I want to make this clear though. There are people saying that. They're wrong. They're as wrong as the person saying this.
Oh.
There are people saying trans people should not have rights.
Well, but that's not.
I'm sure that happens.
But that doesn't represent you or I.
No, absolutely not. But my point is, I want to be honest about this. Yes, that happened. That's not us.
Right.
And you should know better than to know that's not us, especially someone who knows us about this.
I think he knows that, but it's lumped in with the other aspect and viewpoint.
Also, there is no good argument for that side. I'm sorry, there's not.
No, not when it comes to...
And this person did not give me a good argument on that side. Other than, I love those who are oppressed, and I think they should have every right, even if it violates the rules and restrictions of sport, as we've known it for years and years. If it makes them happy and makes them content, they should be allowed to do it. That's not how society works. It's not how rules work. It's just not. In any playing field, anything, any profession, it's not how it works, and it's not how it should ever work.
Chad, is the merger going to work between the Live Tour
real quickly,
and
as we slam the door on this,
yes.
The WNBA discussion, ratings just came in.
Okay.
Almost 2.5 million people watched the WNBA draft last night. Projections were around 1 million.
And it peaked when? Does it say? Top 5?
7? Well, I'm sure.
Like right after Caitlin Clark?
It says this is Sports TV rate, 2.446 million viewers from 7:30 to 9:29.
And no NBA, right? There's no other real live aspect last night.
I was
great.
watching Braves Astros and
Well,
flipping
right.
back and forth, but yeah, I mean, no big sporting event.
That the national audience. That's
Right.
great. That's great for them. Not great for the PGA Tour or the LIV Tour in the back and forth right now with Rory McIlroy. So a London-based paper, City AM, cited two unnamed sources and who believed a deal is close with LIV signing Rory to an $850 million contract and 2% of the tour. And Rory McIlroy went on the Golf Channel in an interview with Todd Lewis and completely shot it down. He, once again, pledged allegiance to the PGA Tour.
Well, Rory, there has been some buzz in social media circles and media circles that you have been offered and contemplating a move to LIV Golf with some pretty astronomical numbers. What's your reaction?
I honestly don't know how these things get started. I've never been offered a number from LIV, and I've never contemplated going to LIV. I think I've made it clear over the past 2 years that I don't think it's something for me. Doesn't mean that I judge people that have went and played over there. I think one of the things that I've realized over the past 2 years is, people can make their own decisions for, whatever they think is best for themselves. And, who are we to judge them for that? But personally for me, my future is here on the PGA Tour, and it's never been any different.
Do you have any idea of the origin of where this comes from?
No idea. I think over the last 2 years, there's been so many rumors of guys, and I think, you need to, I think the one thing that I've realized as well is, guys need to keep an open mind, and I'm sure there's been players that are still playing on the PGA Tour that have talked to, the guys from LIV and had offers and whatever, but I have no idea. We've never, it's never even been a conversation for us, and it's one of those things. It's unfortunate that we have to deal with it, and this is the state that our game's in, and I'm obviously here today, and I'm playing this PGA Tour event next week, and I will play the PGA Tour for the rest of my career.
So, Chad, I see that this morning, and of course the report last night from City AM over in London. The question that I have, and just earlier today, I'm just kind of going through some bullet points, and bear with me here, but the question I have is, why would LIV pay a player that kind of money if many think that a deal is going to be cut between the two tours? I would think that LIV, if the money discussion is happening, would simply be trying to buy out all leverage. If they sign Rory, who's left on the PGA side that has the top-tier juice? Because maybe the word is now that, you've got other players, Hovland potentially, that he's looking for a deal to defect as well. Again, the buying leverage matters here. That you've got Scotty Scheffler pretty much on an island with Spieth and Homa, Schauffele, and they're trying to keep pace, but they're not even close right now. And Tiger's still Tiger, but he's only, competing a few times a year now. And, who knows how long that's going to last. To me, it just, is this LIV report, is this trying to starve out the PGA Tour, or is this the PGA Tour leaking something, trying to get some type of boost with Rory, after he's changed his stance on the whole thing, where he still hates LIV, but all of a sudden he's went the about face, 2 months ago, and changed his overall mindset and mentality. I think it's safe to say, if the story is completely false, someone put it out there for leverage, and the question is which side. And Rory certainly feels used by Jay Monahan. Who knows if you want to believe the $850 million offer. But, I'd be pissed too if I'm Rory after everything that went down. Flying the American flag, and then a year later, less than a year later, selling off and going public with the three people that were negotiating the deal behind the scenes, one of which was Jay Monahan, who was close with Rory and tight with Rory at some point. Maybe he still is. I doubt it. And Rory's about the Tiger aspect. He's got the competitive juices flowing. John Rahm, for instance, he's got the he has the ability to play any major championship he wants based on the exemptions. And he's tight with Phil Mickelson more than he was with Tiger. And it's about face with Rory and Tiger. So, Rahm could take the money. Maybe Rory ends up doing it. But why offer this type, just based on the report, why offer this type of money and then give also 2% of the league at this point in time when you got John Rahm for $650 million and you didn't have to give up any percentage of the tour to him? There's a lot of confusion here for me. And you've got McIlroy again pledging allegiance to the PGA Tour. You have his agent coming out immediately and saying fake news. But off camera, this tweet from Todd Lewis, off camera after that interview, he sends out from the Golf Channel. Off camera, Rory told me that he has had conversations with Yasir Al-Rumayyan, the governor of the Live Tour and the private investment fund, but only about the betterment of the game. McIlroy said that Rumayyan knows that his position on Live, and that's why, out of respect, there's never been an offer. Maybe not an official offer, but is this semantics, Chad? With what Rory's saying off camera? Not an official offer. This is like a college athletic department saying we were never officially turned down by any coach. We offered it one time. Where do you come down on this?
I would like to explore. We'll talk a little bit more about this later.
Yeah.
I'd like to explore more about the betterment of the game part of this and how any of this is making the game better. And I see that, and I think they're trying to get Rory McIlroy over for some ridiculous amount because it's the last cut against the PGA Tour and Jay Monahan to take their golden child that fought so desperately for them.
Yep.
And now that he's over there, it speeds up whatever merger is taking place that still hasn't taken place. So now it gives them more leverage to go ahead and speed it up and make it happen. But again, let's explore this later, Hutton, but is this going to make the game better? Is the game of golf better right now? I don't think it is. I think it was actually better when Live and PGA were two separate things and there was a bit of a rivalry with those Live players when they came over and played majors against PGA Tour players.
It was better without Live.
And now that it's all buddy-buddy and there's a pending merger, but yet they're still paying guys to come over and play with a lot of loud music and on teams, is it going to help golf? I don't know. I tell you this, Masters Sunday round was down 20% from a year ago in ratings. I didn't find it particularly interesting. And that part of that's because Scottie Scheffler's just so damn good that it's suspenseful on Sunday. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't see how this is improving the game.
Well, I mean, again, Rory put a stop to this immediately. So did his spokesperson as soon as this news picked up. The article by City AM came out 2 days ago, Sunday of the Masters. And it says that they reached out to spokespeople for Rory. But if that were actually the case, it would have been debunked, and there wouldn't have been this story. I think it was Live Tour that leaked it. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think they want to show a little push to the PGA Tour to get whatever this is done.
Yeah.